Chris Hipkins, here's why you're an offensive twat. For the sake of easiness, so the New Zealand Labour, Green and Te Pāti Māori Parties can understand, the UK Supreme Court and the US President Donald Trump obviously understand what is a woman. Most people in New Zealand with any intelligence also know what is a woman. But the leader of the opposition, Chris Hipkins, is evidently not so smart. When asked by Sean Plunkett from the Platform New Zealand, what is a woman, Chris Hipkins clearly was totally bamboozled, had absolutely no idea, then remembered that you can now identify as anything you like in New Zealand. Hipkins had turned full woke DEI, transgender bender, rainbow queer, plus more, under his apprenticeship training by Jacinda Ardern.
How do you and how does this government define a woman?
To be honest, Sean, that question's come slightly out of left field for me. Biology, sex, gender. People define themselves. People define their own genders.
Keir Starmer has said that he believes 99.9% of women do not have penises. And I know it's a strange thing for him to say, but given recent events in New Zealand, I'd ask again, how do you define what a woman is?
Well, I think as I've just indicated, I wasn't expecting that question, so it's not something that I've pre-formulated an answer on. But in terms of gender identity, I think people define their gender identity for themselves.
That's self-identification.
Yes.
What about, if you like, an official or a wider societal sense?
Again, I think we have rules in place now. If someone wants to change their gender on their birth certificate, for example, there's a process that they go through in order to do that. I haven't got the process chapter and verse in front of me, but it's available. Anybody can look it up and see what that process is.
So once again, what is a Maori, and why is there no legally verifiable statutory definition in our legislation? Well, here's why, and this is a total bag of worms. Firstly, it's important to recall that race itself is not based on biology. Scientists have found that humans share 99.9% of the same genetic makeup, which means that racial differences are more about how society sees us than actual biological differences. Race is determined through a social construct rather than a biological one, based on perceived shared physical traits and social factors. While physical characteristics like skin colour and hair texture are often associated with race, the concept has no genetic basis and is more about social categorization than biological reality. Essentially, race is often about external appearance, while ethnicity is more about cultural background and lived experiences. But both are shaped by history and societal perceptions, rather than strict scientific definitions. Ethnicity is about cultural identity. It includes the traditions, language, religion, and customs that people share. Ethnic groups are often connected by their ancestors, geography, and their way of life. Unlike race, ethnicity is more fluid. While people cannot change their race, they might adopt different aspects of various ethnic traditions. In New Zealand, ethnic identity is based on self-identification, meaning that individuals can freely choose how they define themselves. If someone has both Maori and other ethnic heritage, they can identify as Maori, or they can identify as their other ethnicity, or as both. You're probably sussing out by now that ethnic self-identification could be much like Chris Hipkins' male transgender bender self-identifying as a woman.
In terms of gender identity, I think people define their gender identity for themselves.
That's self-identification.
Yes. We have rules in place now. If someone wants to change their gender on their birth certificate, for example, there's a process that they go through in order to do that.
Ethnic identity is a personal choice, which is totally nuts, especially if you consider that the Maori identity qualifies for special rights and privileges over and above the other identities, yet carries no legal verification procedures required to prove one's self-identity feelings. The government and census data rely on self-reported ethnicity, rather than strict biological classifications. Historically, Maori identity has evolved from requiring a certain percentage of Maori ancestry, quantum blood, to the current approach, which allows individuals to identify based on however they feel. Maybe they feel that they are a Maori one day, so head off to get some special privileges and rights, and then feel like an Irish queen the next day, with a deep desire to head off overseas on an all-expenses-paid surfing holiday, coughed up by the hard-working Kiwi taxpayer. Not sure if any MPs would do such a thing, but it's possible, such ludicrous laws. Hipkins is totally wrong, legally wrong, insulting and offensive to say that non-Maori have nothing to fear from Maori.
For 185 years, Māori and non-Māori have worked together. Non-Māori have nothing to fear from Māori getting ahead here in New Zealand.
New Zealanders do not identify as non-Maori, as there's no such thing. Most people either identify as Maori, New Zealander, or Irish, or Scottish, or Mexican, or even Blue Swirl Pedokoru Bussy, and so on. Nobody but nobody identifies as non-Maori. For Hipkins to use such a term is not only meaningless, it's appallingly offensive to people who self-identify with an actual, genuine ethnicity. Hipkins not only makes a mockery of all women, he now makes a mockery of nearly all New Zealanders when he refers to them as non-Maori.
Non-Māori have nothing to fear from Māori getting ahead here in New Zealand.
One wonders if many politicians, judges, lawyers self-identify as Maori solely so they can qualify for a few rights and privileges like discounted property rates and business taxes, and then self-identify as another ethnicity to lead a more comfortable, relaxed, wealthy life. Take WhangāreiTim. He would like the retirement age for Maori lowered to 55 to 58 years of age, which would work really well for him. WhangāreiTim is around 10% Maori and about 90% colonizer ethnicity, so he could simply identify as Maori to retire early, then switch back to colonizer to enjoy the proceeds. Time to change the law pronto and make New Zealand great again, as one country with one people, one vote and one flag. We're all New Zealanders, nothing more and nothing less, so there's absolutely no need to complicate matters with Maori and non-Maori. Thank you for listening. WhangāreiTim.